Hey everyone, it's Sleepy Reader, aka Damien. I am back at last with after a long hiatus on my comic book countdown, my comic book thoughts of the week. This will be I'm recording on a Wednesday. This is last Wednesday's books, Wednesday, November 23rd. I had 11 books that came out that week, and I'm going to rank them from 11 to 1 in my super subjective way. Before I dive in, I do want to mention coming up tomorrow on Thursday, the 1st of December, I will be appearing on Comic Books NYC's channel, Kavi. Kavi does a show where he has fellow original art collectors show some of their stuff and talk about original art collecting. And I have a pretty big original art collection. I'll be showing about 20 or more of my art pieces on Kavi's show tomorrow night, 7:30 Pacific time, I guess 10:30 East Coast time. Sorry about that, East Coast people. But that's that's the problem with time zones. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to that, and I will put a link to that show down below. And as I've been doing in recent months, I haven't been doing this in the last recent episodes that I have done of this countdown, I will put timestamps. I'll just show the covers, give my countdown, and then I will do a timestamp for when I flip around the camera and take a deeper dive into the comics for people who are worried about being spoiled. You'll have that. You can just skip over that part, and then there'll be another timestamp after I've done the deep dive into this week's comics, where I show you a bit of a haul of back issues. So you get the countdown, the deep dive, and the back issue haul, and you can pick and choose what you want to watch. So anyway, first I need some coffee. I think I have a bit of a lack of caffeine headache, to be honest. This splash of sweet cream version of the Nitro Starbucks I'm less of a fan of than either the cocoa one or the plain one, but this is what I had. Still not bad. So I'd say the theme of the week was lots of fantastic art, not such fantastic writing overall, and kind of a surprise issue that came in at number one. Surprise to me. I wasn't expecting that to be my number one pick of the week, but it was. Pick just for me, not for you. It'll be different for everybody. So anyway, in at number 11, and I was not happy to do this, was Creepshow number 3. I own copies of Creepshow 1 and 2, but I haven't read them yet. And I realized, it's just a short... I wasn't going to show the art. It's just a short fiction horror anthology, kind of the old-fashioned kind of thing. And the art in here was good, but the stories just completely fell flat. One was by Francisco Francavilla. I think he was the writer too, under a slightly modified pseudonym. I'm just going to peek at that. L. Marlo Francavilla. I assume that's Francavilla himself, but maybe it's someone else. Anyway, I enjoyed seeing his art, and I enjoyed the Jorge Corona art and all the color and everything, but the stories just seemed weak horror stories. Just something happens and then something bad happens, and that's the story. So that was in at number 11. In at number 10 is the final issue, the ultimate issue of Defenders Beyond, which kind of makes a duology, I guess, with the original Defenders miniseries by this same creative team, Al Ewing and what's Rodriguez's first name? I'm sorry, they don't have the first names on the cover, and I don't see the credits. Oh well. Anyway, Javier Rodriguez. Another case of really, really fun art and a really lame script. I mean, it's on some level, Defenders Beyond is purposefully cheesy and lame, but it just it's kind of laughable to read out loud, which I do with my daughter, and was picking it up because her enjoyment of the bad, it's like watching bad movies, purposely bad movies. This was for her a purposefully bad comic. I'm not sure if Al Ewing intended it that way or not. In at number 9 is the most recent issue of Detective Comics, 4 issues in on Ram V's run, and I'm losing confidence in Ram V here. Again, fantastic art by the art and color team. It's not quite who I expected. But anyway, we'll look at that some more. But fantastic art and not so it feels like Ram V's struggling here. He's trying to do some kind of epic Batman tale where all kinds of new villains and old villains appear, and a big, long, complicated thing. Maybe everyone's trying to do their version of Hush or something. And there's lots of good little details, but it seems too much, and it seems a bit of a mess to me. I can't decide whether to stick with it or not. I love the art. I generally love Ram V. Can he pull it out? It might be something for me to wait and read after he's finished the whole thing, rather than have the ups and downs of the monthly read with something that's not quite clicking. At number 8 is Sergeant Rock versus the Army of the Dead. This is one of those strange variant covers. It's the dollar extra cardstock from DC. This is written by Bruce Campbell, and it's drawn by Edward Riso, and it also has a fantastic colorist on it whose name I can't. Rossi. We'll look at this some more. I love the art on this. I think Bruce Campbell's doing a fine job on a cheesy comic, a cheesy war and zombies comic. He makes it really fun. I loved issues 1 and 2, but I sort of suspected after reading issues 1 and 2 that this would not make sense as a 6-issue miniseries, which is what it's billed at. This is 3 of 6. And so that problem is starting to show. It's just kind of, there's nothing new in this issue that you didn't already get from issues 1 and 2. But still really fun. So another one that I'm trying to decide, do I keep getting it? I'll probably keep picking it up. I'm 3 issues in, right? And there's 3 to go. And I'm loving the art. 6 of 8. This is the 6 of 8 of 8 Billion Genies. I put this in at my number 7. I enjoyed it. I don't think I'm loving 8 Billion Genies as much as I once did. Basically because I think it's a cool concept that they keep skipping through time, but it makes for a weird reading experience. So I still like it, but I'm just not in the groove with it. I'm not super excited by it anymore. So it's still a really fun comic, and I'm definitely gonna finish off the last 2 issues, 7 and 8, just to see what they're doing. It's kind of interesting to have a comic where you're waiting each month to see what they'll do. How do they handle this thing where they skip 8 years and now they're going to skip ahead 8 decades, I think. What does it say at the back? Excuse me. See you next month as we explore the first 8 decades. So that's a very daring project, to say the least. Here we go. Another one in at number 6. Fantastic art, as we all just keep repeating this. We've been, most of us have been having a great time for now 9 issues with Human Target, with the art from Greg Smallwood, and the fun sort of film noir meets superheroes script from Tom King. And this is, it was a good issue, a solid little idea that Batman is stalking our hero, the Human Target, but not a whole lot happens. You definitely feel like it didn't need a whole issue to put this idea forward. Now, you could argue there's just something fun about that pace. And he has set up the structure, which is kind of neat, of each issue is one of the 12 days that the human target has to live before the poison he's taken will kill him. And there was an interesting little twist right at the end. I definitely feel like I need to go back and read this whole series as one to figure out all the little twists. But at the same time, it works well as a monthly series because each issue is that self-contained day and chapter, and each issue has its own little concept, which I have to hand it to Tom King. That's a nice way to do things, to have a continuing story, but have each issue sort of be its own conceptual little package. So that was number 6. In at number 5, and remember, all of these are based on my enjoyment. So while I appreciate what Tom King is doing there, I enjoyed this H.P. Lovecraft story more, even though it's probably less sophisticated. Although it still does do its clever little tie-in with Little Nemo in Slumberland. And I was glancing at the original story by H.P. Lovecraft, and I think they've expanded the role of the cats that help out our hero in the Land of Dreams. And I think that was a very smart idea. It gives our hero, he's not just traveling by himself through one weird landscape after another. He's got some cat companions to chat with and bounce off of. And it gives the comic a lot more of a pleasurable feeling. I don't know how many issues this is. There's at least one more issue. They advertise it at the end. They just say next issue. They don't say that it's the last issue. So maybe there'll be 4 or 5 issues. I believe this was originally a comic that appeared in Italy, but I might be wrong. But it's a lot of fun, especially if you're like me and you like H.P. Lovecraft and you like exploring ideas of fantasy in dream. I don't like stories where they say, oh, it was just all a dream, but this is kind of a different story where dreams have kind of, the land of dreams is a real land, sort of, that a skilled dreamer can access. Then on the really just fun, guilty pleasure kind of comic, Pink Lemonade. There's not a whole lot at stake here. It's sort of a faux children's story, but with a little wink, a very gentle wink and a nudge about it all, with really fun art. Well, we'll look at that some more. And a bit of very, very light satire on Hollywood, I guess, and on the idea of art. So I enjoyed it a lot. I'm not sure what to compare it to. It has a little bit of maybe a Michael Allred feel with that sort of retro innocence to it. Love the art and the color and all of that. So it's nothing profound, but it gives me puts a smile on my face when I read it. And then the top 3 were all really great. 2 of them just killed it art-wise, and I wasn't sure. I'm not sure where they're going script-wise yet. I'm not sure if the story is good or bad. They're 2 first issues. In at number 3, I put Frank Miller's Ronin, Book 2, a book that seemed like it had no need for a sequel. And I can't tell where he's going with the story so far, but the art in here is really fun. The way, the concept of the art, where every panel is 2 pages. Every page in the story, just about, except for the little prologue, is a 2-page spread. And each one of them is wonderful to look at. And certainly what goes on is fun. But where is it leading? Will it all turn out to be kind of dumb or kind of clever? Will it be emotionally impactful? I don't know. But even if it isn't, I think it'll be a fun ride. However, this is an $8 comic book, $7.99, and I didn't buy it on Wednesday. But on Black Friday, the opposite of Good Friday probably. On Black Friday, I bought it for half price. So for $4, it was a bargain at $4 because it's definitely easily a $5 comic. It's very thick and it's very nicely produced and everything. But $8 is a bit of a stretch. Now that I see the double page spreads, I feel like it won't be very good in a paperback trade because those tend to have a lot of gutter loss. So you're going to lose the middle of each double page spread. But if they put it out in a nice hardback, that would probably be the way I would want it. So I'm trying to decide. Maybe I can find ways to continue to get each issue cheaply because I think the individual issues are really nice products. But $8, that's just, I guess I can afford it if I really wanted to, but I don't know. Now, the next one that came in the number 2 for me is the new Doctor Strange Fall Sunrise miniseries, written and drawn by Trav Moore. Is it Trad Moore? I keep wanting to call him Trav. Trad Moore. And really peak Trad Moore art. Just fantastic. And colored by, I believe, his wife, Heather Moore. And her colors are perfect, spot on. So this is just a fantastic visual trip and journey. And I can't tell where the script is leading us. I think that rather than actually dying, Doctor Strange has woken up in a different dimension, a different land, and he's wandering through it trying to find something. But I'm not even sure if that interpretation is correct. So the art really carried the day. This is a 4-issue miniseries, and if the story is really stupid, it'll still be worth buying, although I hope the story is not really stupid. It's a $5 comic book, $4.99, but very thick, and unlike the usual Marvel comic, it has a pretty thick cover. So it's a bit sturdier than your average Marvel comic. So a worthy comic to pick up, and I really liked it. Really glad I got it. But my top comic, my number 1, wins. It's got decent art, but it's really the script, the concept, the philosophy, the way it made me think that put Sacrament number 4 of 5 by Peter Milligan and Marcelo Frusin at the top of my list. This cover is more lurid than the inside. It has a lot more subtlety in it. But basically we continue with this story of outlawed religion in the far future, where humanity's in outer space and exploring other planets. And there's a lot of layers here, but it really appeals. I was raised Catholic. This involves an exorcism in outer space. I was raised Catholic, and while I'm not a fan of organized religion anymore, there's still a lot about the questions involved in Catholicism and religion in general that interest me. And for a kind of pop culture exploration of those subjects, I thought this does a very good job. And for me, it makes it extra fun that it has a science fiction setting. And so Peter Milligan is taking the formula of AWA Upshot, which is to make everything as a movie pitch, and pitching a really good movie, let's put it that way, or making a really good comic out of what is also a good movie pitch. And so I really look forward to the final issue of this and to see how he resolves it. And even if I don't love the final issue, this has just raised a lot of material for me to ponder and think about as I think about my religious upbringing and other things and other questions of religion. It's still always a big. We're always talking about religion at family get-togethers. Well, especially before my dad died, who was a very religious Catholic. But my sister is also a college professor of theology and is always pondering these questions, and I'm always kind of probing her to see what kinds of things they're talking about in her work. So this is my pop culture comic book way of doing the same thing, and I am enjoying it a lot. Okay, so I will turn the camera around. We'll take a look at the artwork and the insides, and I'll give you a few more thoughts about these comics. And then after that, I'll come back and show you some comics I bought recently.
With your seatbelt securely fastened whenever the seatbelt sign is on. Even if the sign is off, keep your seatbelt fastened in case we experience unexpected rough air. Please remember to use caution when opening overhead bins.
Okay, my number 11 book, Creepshow, did have interesting art. I mean, I was very excited to read this because it had started out with a Francisco Francavilla story, and the credited writer was L. Marlo Francavilla. I assumed that was Francisco, but I don't. Whoops, sorry for the camera shake. But I don't know for sure. Maybe it's someone related to Francisco. But it's just a very simple story about a guy who likes raccoons. And, well, I don't want to give it away too much. But anyway, he's hiding something evil, which is killing people. And that's it. Oh, maybe I gave away too much there. And then the second story called The Bridge is by, I forgot the writer. Let's see. Is by someone named Ariella Cristantina. But the art is by the familiar Jorge Corona and Jean-Francois Belot on the coloring. That team is a very good one. But this story is about a social influencer who's very shallow and does something stupid, and then something horrible happens to her in a temple in some Southeast Asian place, like a Tibetan temple, or not Tibetan. I don't know. I imagined it was in Thailand, but I don't think that's where it's really meant to be. Looked really cool. Both of these looked really cool, but they were just, if a horror story should have maybe a 1-2-3 rhythm, each of these stories had a 1-2 rhythm, if that makes sense. Very, very simple, very basic. Then in at number 10 was Defenders Beyond. It just kind of annoys me, the level of character-free, what's the term? Metafictional Marvel self-referentialness that Al Ewing indulges in these comics. It's just too one-dimensional and flat, and at the same time it's hard to follow because it's referencing everything Al Ewing has read, and you may not have read it, and it's doing it in a certain way that is, I don't know, it's so lacking in it's just not engaging. It's lacking in nuance, it's lacking in something else. What is engaging is the artwork, the way Javier Rodriguez puts together these stories that Al Ewing comes up with. I'd like to see Rodriguez teamed up with another writer doing this kind of stuff. I don't know, Charles Soule or somebody could get a lot more out of this, I think. I've gone from loving Al Ewing for, I don't know, the first 24 issues of The Immortal Hulk to slowly becoming more and more sort of tired of his approach to things. But I know that other people loved the original 5-issue Defender series, and they're probably loving this one too. And it in a way, it's worth it for the visuals. Although, like I said, I probably would have just read it digitally sometime in the future if my daughter wasn't so eager to keep getting the new issues. Detective Comics, I think, is this issue have a different artistic team? Yeah, it's Ivan Rice rather than... it's still Dave Stewart colors, but before it was... okay, this is bothering me. And it's too bad the artists can't keep up, but I guess the pace... Anyway, Ivan Rice does a great job, and the color looks fantastic with Dave Stewart colors. I don't think I've ever seen Ivan Rice colored by Dave Stewart before. And he even gives us a bit of a flavor of the previous artist, if that makes sense. So I really appreciated the art, but we've got, in the recent issues, we've got Two-Face and Talia al Ghul and Mr. Freeze, plus these new villains who maybe are werewolves, plus some other people who have this family who somehow owns a lot of Gotham but has never lived in Gotham, who's coming to town and maybe is not even from the United States. This weird woman with her strange eyes. There's just all these different elements. Jim Gordon is back in town as a private detective, I guess. It's just so much going on. It's hard for me to keep track of. Confession, I meant to read the short at the back, but I have to go back to the previous issue to read the first part of that short. Just a little personal note as a fan who gets annoyed by things. I hate how here in tiny letters it says to be continued, and then the backup story starts, but there's nothing like at the top saying The Adventures of Jim Gordon or something like that. In an old comic, they would have a big box here saying, next issue, don't forget to come back next issue. And they would have put some kind of logo up here, and that way it would be easy to transition. But you look from this page to that page, and you feel like you're still reading the same story. You only slowly realize, oh, the art looks a little different. And then you get to the back, and you get the title and the credits. And I think that's just really stupid, especially for a backup story. But anyway, just me bitching some more. A weird thing while I bitch is a weird thing about Sergeant Rock versus the Army of the Dead is I went to two shops, and both of them only had the cardstock edition. There was no when it was just one store, I thought, oh well, maybe they sold out, and so I thought, well, I'll wait and I'll go to this other store and get the regular edition. And it wasn't available there either. And I wonder if they either purposefully or by mistake shorted a bunch of stores on just the regular cheaper edition, forcing us fans who want to continue with issue 3 to pay $5 instead of $4 to buy this issue. It's a nice cover by Francisco Francavilla again. It has a bit of a, I don't know, Will Eisner look to me. But luckily, there was that Black Friday sale, so I got this for $2. But I was just amazed. And this has happened to me on a number of other books, I guess, where I'm already following the comic, and then I can't get the regular cover at the regular price. So I just want to show you some of this great art. The colorist, his name is Kristen Rossi. It's funny, Riso and Rossi, but they are a fantastic team, color-wise and art-wise. It really clicks. And the visual storytelling is fantastic. Like I said, it's just kind of more of the same as the last issue, but it's fun. You know, if you like World War II soldiers fighting Nazi zombies, you can't do much better than this. But that's all. It seems like that's all it's going to be. So lots of great pages like that, you know, with the fighting. It's reminds me a bit of Frank Miller, a bit of Mike Mignola, the art-wise, and even a little bit of Richard Corbin. So when I talk about it that way, I'm sure that I'll buy issue number 4. 8 Billion Genies, although it's the same artist as on Curse Words, I don't like the artwork here as much as I did on Curse Words. But it's a very interesting story, and I think the story comes from the team up of the writer and artist. They came up with this story together. So it's not like a Charles Soule story that you could have had a different artist do. But the artist does his own coloring, and I think he really does himself a disservice where he makes it so we have trouble seeing the characters sometimes. The genies look cool, and that always works. I guess maybe the other visuals are sacrificed for the good-looking genies in terms of the color. Yeah, like I said, crazy story. Each issue I wonder what they're going to do, how they're going to handle it, and it's definitely been interesting throughout, but maybe just not quite. The wow factor is a bit lower after maybe the first 3 issues. Maybe there's certain stories that create this hint of where things are going, and in your own head you create a direction for them. I'm still talking about 8 Billion Genies, actually, and then you're a little disappointed when the direction doesn't actually have the same vibe that you had started to create in your head. Maybe again a problem with reading monthly comics. Although this is definitely one where I don't think to myself, oh, I wish I waited for the trade. I'm very glad to read this serialized. And this one also, as I was saying before, in my countdown, Human Target, which I put at number 6, is a great one to read serially. And they do charge more, but there's nice covers. I think there's more pages. It would be nice if there were no ads. When you have a very distinctive art style like this and then it's interrupted by what looks like another comic book, it's a weird effect. And this is such a grown-up story. It's just an odd thing to have the regular kind of splashy comic booky ads in them interrupting the story. They should just swallow their pride or whatever it is and put all the ads at the back. But the art is fantastic, the color, everything, the whole approach that Greg Smallwood's taking here. And I've been rereading old Greg Smallwood Moon Knight comics, and it feels like he's always innovating in one way or another. I'm coming to really appreciate the comic. It's a rough job, a really tough job to be a comic book artist, and the ones who push themselves and keep trying new things and keep upping their game. I can't tell you how much I appreciate those people and what high regard I hold them in. There's always a kind of innovation, exciting visual storytelling here. And so on some level, this is, I don't know. I may not be educated enough to say this is state-of-the-art comics, but it feels like one of the state-of-the-art comics at the moment. There's also not in the art style, but maybe in the style of storytelling, I often think of Darwin Cook here. And maybe also because Darwin Cook liked that retro 60s kind of vibe, which this comic is going for. It's now that I'm looking through it again and talking about it, I kind of wish I ranked it higher than number 6. But I really had fun. The art is lesser, but I really had a lot of fun with this Lovecraft Unknown Kadath. And as I mentioned, there's always the first page of the issue does a little play with Little Nemo. And the Little Nemo stuff is maybe getting closer and closer to what's going on with our actual hero. I forgot his name now. Somehow the art looks different to me as the issues have progressed. Like it looks a little rougher. I don't know. Here's the cat, which is his constant companion. And in the previous issue, he traveled by cats from one space to another, like they could fold space or something. And he kind of traveled by being in the middle of a group of cats. And I think this cat is the son of the king of cats. Anyway, that's definitely, the cat part is definitely a big highlight. There's a certain, which is inherited, of course, from the source material by H.P. Lovecraft, because this is a direct adaptation of one of his novellas. And interestingly, a novella he could not get published in his lifetime, maybe because it being purely an adventure in the world of Dream. But there's something compelling about the idea that this guy has had a vision of this city and he just wants to return there, this city that he saw in his dreams, and he wants to get back there no matter what. He's obsessed with it. he'll take on any danger and horror to try to get there. So cool stuff for me. And the whole different tone, Pink Lemonade. We're kind of in a a world of very light, bright fun, with innocent characters. There is sort of some character growth and whatnot here, but it's still in kind of a kid's storybook framework, I guess. The sense of innocence. But also, wonderful paneling here, wonderful colors. The art to me evokes like Steve Rude and Michael Allred and a bunch of other artists, and maybe a little bit of Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko also. But the plot here is that Pink Lemonade, who is a woman who rides around on a motorcycle and occasionally does slightly superhero-like deeds. She has no memory of who she is, and she's going around and sort of meeting people for the first time and making friends with them. And a movie director she made friends with promised, she decided she didn't want to be in movies, and he promised not to use her life story in movies, but he went ahead and did it. And now she's not only coming into conflict with the movie director, but with the actress who played her and wears a sexier version of her own outfit. So a lot of fun, very slight feeling, but maybe not as slight as it seems. I'm not sure. Okay, and then onto the heavy hitters of art. We have Ronin Book 2, which was written and laid out so the page layouts were done by Frank Miller, and then the completing the art, the full pencils and the inks were done by another art team. Where's the credits? I guess they're about to come up. Yeah, by Philip Tan and Daniel Henriquez, and I don't know if he's just an assistant. Philip Tan, I think, is the main artist here over those Frank Miller layouts. So the look of the page is Frank Miller, but the details, you might say, are Philip Tan, with help from Daniel Henriquez. And I don't know if he inked or if he did the gray tones or assisted in some other way. So beyond this point, we're starting here. Every page is just a two-page spread composition, and they are beautifully composed. There's kind of it seems in a kind of a dreamscape or something, but there's this woman carrying her baby on her back, and they're fighting a demon, and it has that kind of lone wolf and cub aspect. And a bit of a spoiler here, the baby does get involved in the fighting in a very ultimately over-the-top, insane way, which maybe I shouldn't give away here, even though I do a little bit of spoilers in this section. So yeah, I love this page. I really love that. There's something about the way Philip Tan does the cute faces, with especially the eyes, with a bit of that manga shininess, the little reflective bubbles in the eyes. It somehow distracts me from the otherwise kind of gritty texturedness that we get here. So the question really is, does Frank Miller have some brilliant plan for this, or is it just going to be kind of... I mean, I think the demon is really an AI, or at least was in the original Ronin. So is this all just sort of taking place in sort of a virtual space, and there's just going to be a bunch of fighting in the virtual space? Or will Frank Miller develop a more complex plot around all of this? But even if he doesn't, it's spectacular to look at, and it's just fun. So here's one that kind of has some panels, but it's still all a one-page spread. But for the most part, each picture is one double-page spread, which is just a wonderful thing for an art aficionado. I think I better stop around here. But anyway, so that's really fun. And then we get another book, my number 2 book, again because the story is dubious, but I'm waiting to see. But page after page, and I think this is like 30 pages or more, Trav Moore just stuns, and his colorist Heather Moore also stuns us, and pays, does the art well. Unlike the Human Target, neither of these 2 books have ads. Or maybe, no, I'm wrong. This book does have ads breaking things up. So that's unfortunate. I think that's, we pay more for the floppies than we do for the trades. The least they could do is stop putting the ads in the middle of the story. That's more griping. Yet I'm still buying. I'm buying a lot less Marvel and DC, and the ads are one reason. There's a number of reasons, but that's definitely a negative. So yeah, it seems like Doctor Strange, who looks a bit like Trav Moore himself, I believe, from pictures I've seen of Trav Moore, is just wandering through this weird landscape. If he knows where he is, I'm not sure. And there's a bunch of kind of poetic narration that really didn't tell me a lot. Da-dum, da-da, da-da, da-da. I don't know. But it wasn't horrible or anything. But and there's these chapters with names, but they don't tell me a lot either. But the art is just incredible. Yeah. So finally, less incredible art, but workmanlike. I don't like this cover much. The other covers for other issues of Sacrament, like for instance, here's issue 3. That was a much better cover and much more reflective of the themes of the story than this one there. One possibility, one question mark about this person who's possessed by the devil is, are they actually possessed by some kind of alien life form who believes he's the devil? Anyway, all the different factors here just grow more and more intense. I think we had a big sex scene in the previous issue. So if you like that, you might like Sacrament for that, with a priest and a nun. It has definitely shocked my inner Catholic boy. But the funny thing is, we have opposing sides about is religion good or bad, and we're presented, with the best argument about usually for why religion is bad. Wars, persecutions, massacres, the most grotesque tortures the human mind could conceive have all seemingly accompanied religion. But then this character who's saying this is then revealed on the next page to be just as awful. So Peter Milligan is he's just as awful as anything he's accused religion of, it turns out, in terms of his moral depravity. And the journey of the priest and his struggles with his own faith is really quite moving. And there are moments where it's kind of over the top and, like the scene where the nun and the priest almost have sex. But still, it really gets at the struggle of humanity with our own failings and our own desire to rise above those failings. So I don't mean to get too religious or philosophical on you. Oh, here's someone who's about to have the part of her brain that believes in God drilled right out of her. That's intense. I don't think that aspect of this society is going to get more than, because we only have one more issue to go, more than just a passing nod. Anyway, so this my unexpected number 1, tapping into my my repressed Catholic boy, I guess, or my interest in the human struggle. So So anyway, I will turn the camera around again. This is going to be a long video, my goodness, and show you guys some comics I bought recently. Okay, back again. I I thought I was going to do a relatively short video, but I'm instead doing one of my longer ones. But I already, said I'm going to do the haul, and it's fun for me to do the haul. I don't know how many people will make it all the way to this haul. I've got stuff that I picked up at Black Friday sales, plus a few things from eBay. Plus, a few days ago, I was at Mocha Express, and Travis, aka Comics with Bueller, had just gotten in his variant cover. That's Travis right there. He's lost a lot of weight, but that's definitely him, and that's his cat Nipples lifting up as it's called, the Bueller bus with there it says Comics with Bueller, whatnot, Comics Cross Country. I guess they removed the other stuff. This is a whatnot comic. So whatnot is sponsoring a lot of the bigger YouTube channels these days, or one of their sponsors. And there's been a lot of negativity around them, but they're just another internet selling company trying to make their way in the world, leave their mark, build their audience. And I think it's cool that they've reached out to a lot of YouTubers, and I also think it's cool that they want to try and publish their own comics. I don't know about the artist, but I know from Bueller, the writer on this is early in his career. He'd been working on this comic for a long time, long before whatnot. And I think the art looks quite interesting. I'm not immediately sold on the coloring, but so I'm curious. I'm looking forward to reading this. So it could be fun. It's called Ninja Funk. And so then they had these virgin covers, which is kind of a strange thing, but you can write up there or draw up there. Maybe I'll draw something up there. And then I also got one of these shiny, I don't know if you call this a foil cover. It's an even thicker cover, by the way. And then I got to see, but I didn't buy or get. He had 20 issues that had metal covers, that literally there was some kind of metal that they had etched the cover into and affixed in some very permanent way to the actual cover. So you could still, even though it was metal from here beyond, they could still staple the comic. But anyway, that was very new to me. A metal cover, but it was kind of cool. And and the way Whatnot does it, in exchange for sort of promotion, Bueller didn't have to pay anything for all these Bueller variant covers, and he gets to keep all the profits, which will then keep putting gas in the old Bueller bus when he sells the variants on Whatnot. But he's also giving a lot away, I believe. So then on eBay, I decided I wanted 8-Ball, and it may be kind of expensive to get all of them, but I've got the first 4 issues now of the, although I think most of them are later printings, of the now kind of famous series 8-Ball, that where the artist Daniel Clowes experimented and also serialized what are now his famous graphic novels. This one, starting in issue 1, included Like a Velvet Glove Cast in Iron, and also begins the the Young Dan Pusey series. So I got number 1, and this is number 2. A little bit of a naughty cover. And number 3. I like how they're like a pastiche of very old comics with so many different things going on them, advertising all the different stories inside. And number 4. So I don't know. I'll continue to try to get them. I was very disappointed in the paperback collection of 8 Ball. And then while I was on eBay, I picked up the last few of the Will Eisner Quarterly that I have not been able to find. There were, I think, a total of 8 issues or 7 issues. 8, I think. So this is issue 4. This is issue 8. Wow, issue 8 is way thinner than issue 4, obviously. And then issue 6 and issue 6. So now I think I have the complete run of Will Eisner's Quarterly, and I want to read it in order, even though perhaps I don't know if that's necessary. Actually, I love this cover here. That's really cool. I'm guessing this is supposed to be a retiree in Florida being visited by a grandchild who is recreating New York City, where probably the retiree originally came from. And then also, I think this must be a very late printing of Homegrown Funnies by R. Crumb. It says an R. Crumb classic, 150,000 copies sold. The cool thing about Underground Comics is they kind of treated them like books. They just, when they sold out, they printed more and sent some more out to the head shops. So I was, in 1980, when I was in college, I was going to the head shop and buying Underground Comics that were just the latest printings of these things from the early 70s. Okay, and then, whoops, this is all backwards. Then I went to 2 different shops on Black Friday, and at one of them I got this mini-series about Solomon Kane, which I was not aware of before. And looking it over, I think they're all written by, is it Bill Manilow? I forgot. They're all written by the same writer, but different artists appear on it. Ralph Macchio. So, like this artist, the pencilers are Steve Carr and Brett Blevins. But I think Mike Mignola is the artist in one of them, and I think maybe Bill Sienkiewicz. I might be wrong about that. Maybe he just did a cover. So there's issue 1, issue 2. Is that a Sienkiewicz? No. That might be a Sienkiewicz cover. Issue 3. I'm going to look inside and see who did the art on the inside. Ralph Macchio, Brett Blevins, and Al Williamson. So Al Williamson's inks would be a welcome addition. Okay, so maybe I was wrong, but I thought I saw that different issues. This looks like the Mignola cover, but I think maybe there's Mignola art on the inside of this one. And who did this cover? This art looks really cool. Issue 5 and issue 6. And then for whatever reason, I've decided I want to collect all of the saga of the Swamp Thing up through the end of Alan Moore's run, but also the stuff before Alan Moore came along. Mostly because I'm kind of interested in Tom Yates's early artwork. I think this was one of his earliest jobs, was on Swamp Thing. So that's Swamp Thing number 4. These are Yates covers. This is Swamp Thing number 5. Swamp Thing number 7. Swamp Thing number 10. I don't think, compared to other artists, I don't think Yates, who is an artist I like quite a bit, I don't think he had the best approach to showing the Swamp Thing, because he kind of just looked like a naked green man without a crotch or something. Swamp Thing number 13. That's a cool cover. Is that still Yates? Yep, the signature on the cover is Yates. And Swamp Thing number... Oh, I must have bought this one from mycomicshop.com. I didn't even realize it. So there's a little comicshop.com stuff mixed in here. This is number 16. Number 17. So I probably put together the Swamp Things that I'd gotten from mycomicshop.com recently, along with the ones I just bought at the shop on last Thursday. Swamp Thing number 18, 19. Still Tom Yates. Yep, still got Yates' signature on the cover. Number 23. Would Alan Moore already be on it by issue number 23? And number 24. Or maybe not. Maybe this is just before. I forget when Alan Moore started. This is number 24. So that's the last of those. Whenever I find them cheaply, so these were half off the sticker price, so $1.50, I'll pick up Concrete. It's a bit confusing. There's a lot of different Concrete miniseries and stuff, but I'm slowly chipping away at it and getting more and more Concrete. I really like Chadwick's storytelling style and the low-key kind of aspect of the stories. Oh, here's one from the original Swamp Thing run. It looks kind of beat up, but number 14. So that would be when Nestor Redondo, who's an artist I've come to appreciate a lot recently, was drawing the Swamp Thing. And probably still with Len Wein writing it, or maybe someone else had taken over the writing by then. And here's a Rawhide Kid with a cover by Larry Lieber. And I believe inside is art and story by Larry Lieber. Although it has quite a, I looked inside, it has quite a Herb Trimp kind of look, Herb Trimpy kind of look to it, but it is Larry Lieber. I like Larry Lieber art. He did some great covers when he was at Atlas Comics. But I think he was probably a slower artist. And that's maybe why he didn't get more work, or I don't know. And then I got some old DC. Got a Rip Hunter Time Master. I'm pretty sure I just showed these on Twitter and not in a video before. Because I'm pretty sure I got this on Black Friday. But my daughter immediately noticed Stonehenge in the background, which she knows mostly from watching the Spinal Tap movie. Then we've got a Jimmy Olsen extra. Jimmy Olsen teams up with Supergirl, and Superman is dooming Jimmy Olsen to a life of invisibility, which a lot of people might be relieved if Jimmy Olsen does permanently become invisible. Then 3 Action Comics. Let's see. 318, 335. Yeah, so I really like this cover. There's Lex Luthor being memorialized by all his friends. And Superman practicing fighting Lex Luthor and Brainiac by punching cardboard cutouts of them. That sounds very useful. And Superman rags to riches. I'm sure this is going to make a commentary on capitalism. So we've got Hobo Superman with holes in his socks. I never even pictured what he had under those boots, which kind of, his boots look like socks to me anyway. Last but not least, I picked up 2 issues of Creepy. I don't know why it says First Magazine of Illustrated Horror. I guess it's not comics. I guess they don't count the EC comics or other horror comics. Let's see who's inside here. So this is issue number 33 from 1970. And artists in this issue, William Barry, Pat Boyette, Reed Crandall, Juan Lopez Ramon, John Fatuccio, Tom Sutton, and Tony Williamsu. Interesting. And of course, you got to get some Conan wherever you go. So there's that. And finally, the 50th anniversary issue of Creepy number 50. First and best in illustrated horror. And that's coming right off. Oh well, it's got to be rebagged anyway. And this issue came out, I don't know why, I'm always interested, in 1972, not long after. And if you think about it, Creepy and Eerie launched a lot of black and white comics. You got their direct sort of imitators. What was that line of comics called? I think it was called Eerie Comics or something like that. And then you had Marvel also putting out all of their black and white horror comics and the like. And I think it was all because they saw, hey, you can charge more money and perhaps sell to an older audience and avoid censors if you do these black and white magazines. So that was kind of, I think, the innovation of Jim Warren back in the day. And there's nothing like those black and white horror magazines anymore. But I wish there were. Okay, so that's my haul for today. I hope you all are having a great time reading comics. In a little while, I'll probably be going to my comic book shop and picking up whatever new comics came out this week. I think that I was, trying to figure out what might have come out that I would pick up, and I think the list was pretty short. So hopefully I'll be back next week with another one of these. And in the meantime, like I said, I will be on Kavi's channel, Comic Books NYC, Thursday night at 7:30 Pacific, 10:30 Eastern. And then I'll probably be live, I'm guessing on Rasa's channel, but on someone's channel on Sunday for the floating comic book chat. And back with you, hopefully with other videos. So have a great comic book reading week, and I'll talk to you later.